Well, hello and welcome to Wick Airport in Scotland on X-Plane 11 with the Les Saab 340 in Loganair livery parked there on the stand. It's early morning, so I think between 9 and 10 o'clock. We have VFR weather, so no real world weather today because I want to make sure we can go where we want to go. This is default X-Plane 11 apart from we've got Orbx to Earth GB North scenery, and we've got live traffic plug-in, but I don't think we'll get any live traffic on the route today. So this is the default Wick Airport for X-Plane 11. It's pretty good, although these hangars do look rather smarter than the actual hangars at the airport, which the original World War II hangars. So I'll tell you where we're flying in a second. We're basically going to be flying to Kirkwall in Orkney, but let's just jump into the cockpit and get the plane started. Now I am going to cheat today and use the auto start feature that comes with this plane. So while the auto start is doing its thing, let's have a look at where we're going to be going today. So on Sky Vector, this is the northeast tip of Scotland. This is Wick and Wick Airport here. John O'Groats is up here. This is the island of Orkney, and this is Kirkwall Airport where we're going to be landing. We're going to essentially follow the route of airway N560, so 14-degree bearing to Kirkwall on the Kirkwall VOR, and then when we reach approximately here we're going to turn onto the DME Arc, follow the arc round, and then turn in to approach runway 09 on the ILS. So we just have a look at that on a proper chart. This is our arrival from Wick, 14-degree bearing to Kirkwall. When we reach 13 DME from Kirkwall VOR, we'll turn left onto the arc, follow the arc round until we get to a 77-degree bearing to Kirkwall, and we'll turn in for the ILS runway 09. Okay, so startup is in progress. While that's going on, let's just check our altimeters. That's something we can do and not upset any of the startup stuff. So 1013 as it's VFR. Now on this plane you don't have a metric setting on the pilot's altimeter, but you do on the co-pilot's. So let's just set that to 1013, and then we can read off the inches, which should be 2992. Our startup looks like it's going quite well. The other thing we can do while we're waiting is set the radio, set the nav radios. So for Kirkwall VOR is 108.6 and the ILS is 110.1. So let's start at 108.6 and we want a 14-degree bearing. We'll set that once the electronic instruments stabilise. Another thing we can do while we're waiting is turn on nose wheel steering. Quite a short flight to Kirkwall today, and then we're not going to go above 3,000 feet, so let's get our altimeter dialed in for that. Okay, there we go, and auto start is finished. I said for navigation that we want a 14-degree bearing to Kirkwall, so we'll just get that set up now. We're going to take off on runway 31 from Wick, and then we're going to make a right turn onto 14-degree, and we should pick up the Kirkwall VOR signal pretty much as soon as we're airborne. Okay, so let's bring up a couple of things you should bring up. Checklists, so we'll commence with the after engine start checklist, and also essential I find on this plane is we'll view the throttle quadrants so that we can make sure we're in the right positions. So we're at ground idle, and we really want to get the prop to fine while we're sat here on the ground, so let's move it to unfeathered and just wait for the temperature and pressure torque gauges to settle down. And then we'll move it, the prop slowly, we'll move it full forward. And that's our takeoff position. and also the position while we're at the ground. Now, checklist. Okay, so we want the overhead panel for some of this, so auto coursing we want to turn on. Bus tie, all that looks good, no lights on. External power is off, we didn't use it. Generators are okay. Air conditioning, like a little bit of heat, so usually you set them to about 3 or 4. Emergency light needs to be armed. Is it going to do this thing where it doesn't want to move to the armed position? Interesting, I've had this before, so I think in this case I usually open the cover and move it and then shut the cover again. Often it will just click on its own without doing that, not quite sure why. Fuel used is going to be 0 anyway, pretty much. Doesn't need resetting. Conditioning we've already done. Ice protection, you want to turn the standby pitot on. I don't think we've got any clouds today, so we shouldn't need anything else. Overhead panel, lights, we've still got inverters to sort and reset the bleeds. Other than that, the panel is looking good. Taxi checklist. Before we go taxi, let's get our lights sorted out. So we want a beacon light, strobe, we'll have taxi on and landing lights off for now. Oh yeah, CTOTs, this is constant torque on takeoff. On a longish runway, I usually set it to about 90, I'm not sure what it's actually meant to be set to. We'll arm that. Flaps, we'll have 1 notch of flaps, so let's do that now. Okay, everything else I think is done. And before takeoff, so we're now in a position where we can taxi, so I'm just going to switch to head tracking for the taxi and release the parking brake. And we're going to be taxiing via Charlie because that's basically the way to get to the runway here. Just going to move the throttle a notch off ground idle to get us moving, and then we'll put it back. It's clear to proceed. That's the main runway ahead of us, running left right. So we're going to make a right turn and then a short backtrack, ready to take off on runway 31. Just stop here and check the runway looks okay, yeah, and no landing in from the sea, that's fine, so we'll continue. Okay, should be just ready. Okay, let's off head tracking for now. Okay, so what we want, let's have heading bug lined up with runway 31. We go through the checklist. External lights, so time to put the landing lights on and the taxi light off. See, we've got takeoff signal, we're ready on air conditioning, transpond, oops, just gone and upset nav setting. 108.6, oh yeah, 108.6 and 110.1, so I actually did that the wrong way, so let's just put this back. What I meant to do is turn on the transponder. Flight controls we've checked, panel lights are okay, takeoff inhibit, that just stops some warnings from appearing during the takeoff roll. Okay, and the altimeter's set. We're going to now push the throttle forward to about 70%, which will kick in CTOT of 90%. We're going to proceed runway heading, take off, gear up, flaps up. We're going to make a right turn onto the 14-degree radial to Kirkwall. Okay, so parking brake released and throttle advanced. And you'll see we've gone to 90% torque, so CTOT's kicked in. Be looking to rotate about 110 with one notch of flaps. Yeah, 100 knots. And there we go. We've got positive climb. And you're going to raise the gear. Decent speed now, so I'm going to raise the flaps and I'm going to begin the right turn. And we should get the Kirkwall VOR signal pretty soon. There it is. Let's just prep the autopilot here so we're ready for climb and nav when we engage it. We'll climb at maximum climb speed. Just get things stabilised and then we'll engage the autopilot. Okay, let's do that now. So we should be climbing 3,000 feet. And we can commence with the after takeoff checklist. Before we do that, let's get CTOT turned off, so we don't need this much power anymore. And we'll bring the props back to 1230 RPM for climbing cruise. And we're at our target altitude already, so I'm just going to drop the power back a bit. We don't need to go ridiculously fast on this flight, it's not very far. Gears up, and we already checked ice protection. Turn auto course and off now that we've completed the takeoff. External lights, turn off the landing lights for now. Cabin signs I'm not going to do today. Aircon set, take-up inhibit has gone out. Cabin pressure, it looks okay-ish. Prop sync, we can turn on. CTOP we already turned off, and altimeters shouldn't change as we're on VFR today. The next checklist we don't really use, so we'll just leave the approach checklist on ready as the next thing that we'll need to do. Okay, so we are heading to Kirkwall. We're on 14-degree bearing and nicely lined up on nav. 3,000 feet. The next thing we have to do is make a left turn when we get to, let's just have a look at the chart again to remind ourselves. Coming up here, we're going to get to 13 DME and then turn onto the Arc and head up here and then into runway 09. So 13 DME is the next time we have to take some action. We're at 21 now, so we've got a little bit of time. So let's prepare our altitude. So we've got to get onto the Arc at or above 2,600 feet and then descend to 2,400 feet. So let's dial in 2,400 to have that ready. We'll synchronise our heading bug with our current heading so that when we switch to heading mode to go onto the Arc that we're all nicely lined up. Speed about 200 knots is about right for now. That's it, so now we can enjoy the flight for a bit. On to the left there, we've got just passing over the north coast where John O'Groats is. That's the island of Stroma there, which is uninhabited now, but there are still houses on it. People used to live there. Great place to go and visit if you can ever get there. Orkney coming up ahead. And that's North Sea out to the right. We're over the Pentland Firth at the moment. There's the island of Hoy with its cliffs over there, and we'll be actually following the Arc round the east coast of the island of Hoy very soon. So the thing we're looking for now is 13 miles from Kirkwall when we will start our turn. And once we commence the turn, we'll do a sort of turn and twist. So we'll move the VOR radial 10 degrees at a time, and we'll move the heading 10 degrees at a time to keep ourselves at basically at right angles to the VOR radials. So we're coming in on 14. So the next one we'll go to is 30 degrees, the 30 degree radial, which moves us partly around the arc, and we'll just make sure we're lined up on that. The first thing we'll do is a left turn of about 80 degrees, and that's coming up pretty soon. We're at D14.5 now, and we want to turn at D13. So 1 mile to go. So we're going to turn onto the arc. We should be on heading mode, which I've forgotten to do. Let's do that now. On we go. And we're looking to end up on the D11 arc, so we want to be within 1 mile of 11 miles from Kirkwall VOR. Again, as you can see the island of Hoy on the left. Also start our descent here, so let's pick indicated airspeed mode, and we'll just take the power back a bit so that we start to descend. We don't need to descend very quickly because we're only going down 600 feet. So we're coming up onto the arc now, and we are actually a little bit inside 10.4, 10.3, and we want to be at 11, so we've turned a bit. That's probably due to me turning a bit late. We need to turn our bearing now to 30 degrees. That's the next radial we want to intercept, and in fact we're nearly there. We won't turn in anymore because, as I say, we're too far in already. So we'll let this one pass. We'll move the radial around to 40 degrees. So that's the next radial to Kirkwall that we want to intercept. Distance is starting to come out now, so we will turn in soon. Okay, this is time to go into the 50 degree radial, and then we'll also turn our heading 10 degrees or so. It's not an exact science, at least not for me. Yes, we are getting actually near to the right distance, so I'll just make sure that basically I'm trying to keep the heading at a right angle to the radial that we've picked next, which means we're on the arc in the right direction. It's 50 degrees, so next one we want is 60. Turn the heading 10. Now when we get to 77 we want to turn in to 090. So we're not too far off from doing that. Okay, what else we'll do is we will start some of these other check items. So auto coulson can now go back on, and prop sync can go off, and we'll just make a note that we've done those two things. How we're doing on the arc, 11 exactly, and we've just passed 60 degrees. So we're going to 70 degree radial. Exactly D11, which is good. Don't forget we're going to start turning in at 77 degrees. Get our lights on. We're actually in here. We don't gear yet, that's okay. So landing lights are on. looks like we're doing nicely at the moment. Cliffs of Hoy on the left, and crossing the 70-degree radial, bang on 11 DME. So now we'll go for 77, and when we reach 77 we will turn in to a bearing of 90 degrees, and then we'll switch to the ILS on nav 1. .77 degrees, so let's turn in to a heading of 90, and we'll change our VOR radial to 90 as well. We're at 2400 feet. Actually, we'll just bring the power back a little, maybe about 160 will do, as we're going to be starting our descent soon when we get the glide slope. Coming up to radial now, so let's go for, in fact, let's go for approach mode, and we'll go for ILS. And you can see we've got a glide slope indicator now. Speed's okay at the moment. When the glide slope's about 1 notch above centre line, we'll put the gear down, and we'll start to add some flaps, and we'll put props full forward. We're still okay on altimeter, so we should be saying, I think this is the runway at Kirkwall ahead of us here. We seem to be coming in on the ILS, which is good. The town of Kirkwall is over to our left. Okay, let's get ready with the gear. It's a fairly steep descent slope here at Kirkwall. I think it's steeper than 3 degrees due to the terrain, so we might have to watch our speed control. Right, gears going down. We are actually going a bit fast as well, so I just pull the power back slightly, and I'm going to add 1 notch of flaps and props full forward. And 2nd notch of flaps. So we want the speed to be around about 120 over the threshold. And so you can see Kirkwall in the bay over on the left, and we've got the runway ahead. And we go the final flap setting we're going to use, which is 20 for this approach. So gears down, hydraulics probably okay. Let's hope they are. Flaps set, condition levers are max. And we have our landing lights on, so all we've got to do now is land. Speed's okay, we don't want to let it go any slower than that, so let's just add a little bit of power back in. You can see our vertical rate here is about 800 feet per minute, which is a little bit higher than you might normally find on an ILS approach. So it is a fairly steep approach. No wind today, so our grind speed's going to be pretty high. Okay, so I'm going to disconnect the autopilot in a second, which always seems a shame seeing as it's doing such a nice job. There we go, it's down to me now. So when when we reach the threshold, I'm going to reduce power to idle. Landing a bit long here. Down, and let's go reverse thrust. Not entirely sure why it's doing that. Maybe if I move it too far back it does that. Let's just do a little bit of braking here. I think we've actually overshot. Have we overshot the exit from the runway? Yes, we did land a bit long, so we're going to have to just turn round, I think, which is a bit unfortunate. Did land a bit long there. And we can turn landing lights off, taxi light on, put flaps up. Should have put flaps up when we were still rolling, because that helps with braking. Yeah, the taxiway is up here on the left. Switch pet tracking back on just to help with taxiing. Taxiway here is quite narrow, so I'm not entirely sure this is the right way to be going, but it does seem to lead to something that looks like a parking spot. I've never actually flown into Kirkwall, so I'm not 100% sure. There's some baggage truck type things up here, so I'm just going to park next to those. And there is a car park there as well, so I'm hoping this is somewhere near the actual terminal building. That will do for now. This would be the time to turn off the seatbelt sign if I bothered to turn it on. So, we're here in Kirkwall. Hope you enjoyed the flight, and goodbye for now.